Welcome, Jesse Coyle. Here we are live at Bike Society here in Adelaide, Tour Down Under. The NERO show powered by. We're going with powered by.
I think we're not going to go with presented by. We're going powered by Red Bull. So thanks for Red Bull for putting this event on for us, and Bike Society for hosting us.
And all these wonderful, amazing people for turning up and listen to us talk bikes.
Yeah, which you will see the crowd now because we will insert some B-roll there. But yeah, we're at Tour Down Under. We got our little media accreditation so we could snoop around. That was quite cool. And obviously, it's the NERO show. So we're starting with Gear Chat. Obviously, it's the start of the year, first World Tour race of the season. So we want to see what everyone's running and see what's good, see what's perhaps not quite as impressive.
So to do that, we went to the pits. Mm-hmm. So the pre-stage pits before stage one, which is basically you walk up and down where the guys are all getting ready, the team mechanics taking the bikes off the roof and all that kind of stuff. And we have pretty good access. A few of you guys who are here saw me sniffing around the tyres, pinching tyres, doing all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I think we could kind of maybe go through, if we've got time, the things that stood out to us as we wandered down. The good, the bad, and potentially the ugly.
Yeah, I think we'll maybe try to cover everything. Some of them aren't that interesting. Some of them are. I mean, the first, I guess for me, the most obvious one to go and check out because they had the most hyped 2025 bike was obviously Colnago with their new aero bike. So we walk over to the to the UAE team. Vans there, cars there. Look on top of the car.
Nothing.
Bunch of V4 RSs.
V4 RSs.
So
what's going on?
Yeah, obviously very disappointing. I mean, that bike got released. I looked it up, 9th of December. Gets released. Everyone talks about it. Floats around.
We know it was at their team camp.
Mm-hmm. We saw videos of it. We've seen little sneaky videos of Tadej Pogačar riding around on it. I just don't really have anything other than just disappointing not to see it.
Yeah.
And it raises a lot of questions.
The only thing I can add is I did message, so Artem, some of the people here will know who I'm talking about. He's the guy who rides in behind some of the pros at, I think it's Mallorca, am I right in saying?
One of those islands somewhere in Spain. Yeah.
And he rides in behind them and he films videos for us on YouTube that do really well. And he's done a few with Tadej this year. Mm-hmm. And he has said that he's on the V4 RS 3 days out of 4. So if Tadej's still kind of running that one, I don't see him choosing it as he's not going to be choosing his main bike by the looks for the beginning of 2025. Well, it's a bit disappointing, but whatever.
He's also, from what I've seen, maybe I saw one other rider on it. So even the guys, okay, I could maybe understand if they just didn't have it here because they couldn't get them to Australia. But for the rest of the guys in Europe to not be on it, I just don't like it. Because we all got hyped up. And it's for pre-sale. You could order it.
You can buy it.
I mean, we chatted about that. We said, Keish, it's on there. It's listed.
Yeah.
When are they going to arrive? When are you going to get it? If the pros aren't even on it and it's January, I don't like it.
Insert conspiracy theory here. Yeah, look, I don't think there's much more we can say about it. Y1 RS, where are you? Hopefully we see it at UAE Tour, but as it stands now, kind of disappointing. All right, we'll trundle. So this is sort of in the list of, as I wandered down the pits, Bahrain were actually the first car, interestingly enough, but I think that's drawn out of a hat for the first stage. The Reacto, it's funny. It's like, for me, the Reacto is now in this weird position where it's like, it's an easy bike to recommend to people, but it's also, I feel like for maybe the pros themselves, you're starting to question, where's my updates?
Haven't we been saying that for the last year and a half? Yeah. I mean, yep.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is. The best cafe bike in the peloton was sort of next up, the Look Blade RS. This was kind of interesting, apart from the fact, they're running sort of big chain rings on it, but that's sort of what everyone seems to do. From what I gather, it's the first power meter pedal in the pro peloton.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're running the Look power pedals, which review okay, not amazing. Someone's coughing to maybe say that I'm wrong, but yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, that one.
No, well, I think in this relationship between consumer and pro, how many consumers are on power meter pedals?
A lot.
And hardly, and well, up until this point, no pros. So to see a power meter pedal being raced in the World Tour, I think that's cool. I read it.
Yeah, next up, the Bianchi Ultra RS. So this is a bike, if anyone has listened to this show enough, is probably the most flip-flopped bike when it comes to any time we talk about this thing. And I've flipped or flopped again. I now love it again.
Zigged or zagged?
I've zigged and zagged.
I think you've zagged.
I'm not sure what it is. So they've got the Vision 60 SL wheels on it, which tested really well.
Yep.
It just has, maybe it could just be the fact that they've now whacked it with a Celeste paint job that it now looks fantastic. But I don't know. It's in my sort of hot bike sort of list again.
That's just a vibe pick. Mm-hmm. I mean, we said this before that the outside of being raced by pros is totally invisible. There's no testing on it. Is it actually quick? I mean, yeah, we can. I mean, you're saying you like it because it looks really fast. Yeah, as we've said before, I just don't think you can release an aero bike and not have anyone actually test it at that level.
I don't know if this is interesting, but every single rider on that team had their saddle slammed as far forward as possible. So I don't know whether there's something in the geometry that makes that bike a bit of a challenge for the pros to fit themselves on it. But yeah, that was kind of pretty noticeable. Mm-hmm. All right. Red Bull SL8s next up. Pretty frame. What do you think?
A lot of their riders, actually, I think that maybe there were two that didn't. We're all running one by. And I don't get it. Okay. An S-Works SL8.
Speaking of vibe.
Should be bloody close to the weight limit already. So are they doing it for weight savings? I don't think so. If that thing can't be 6.9, 6.8, then the mechanics have a problem. So why else would you run one by? But we're in Adelaide. Is there ever a flat course? You've run one by. I just looked at it and I went, why? Why does Sam Welsford have a one by?
Right. So yeah, Welsford's setup was a 56 front tooth running 1036. It is. I would love to sit here and be able to argue with you and try and somehow give you I think I've tried actually in the past to sell this to you from a performance perspective. I mean, he even had chain catches on it. So
do they make a 56 40 something in a 2x setup? He could be riding
100%.
That. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's not a size of the big ring limitation. Okay.
Vibe.
Yeah.
It looked sick. I mean, I think back to, when I had the one by on the S5, I look at the pictures of it and I still go, yeah, that looks sick. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because he can.
Nothing against SRAM.
It is annoying, though.
I think they like the vibe of it, so they want to get it on as many bikes as possible because that's their future. That's SRAM's future. And we're going to see other things come out with that SRAM are doing. I think it's just them just putting a little bit of pressure on. Can we get a few guys on one by every now and again if it doesn't hurt them? It's just the doesn't hurt them thing. We'll have to see what he's... I mean, what did he have on... I'd be curious if we went to the start today, if he was still running it today, because that hill and that Mangler's hill was...
Anyone know? Does anyone know if he was running 1x, 2x today? No? Not sure. He was running 2x. Okay. There you go. So he needed it to get up Mangler's.
Right.
Fair enough.
Well, it's better for having a team mechanic. Just swap them every night if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't need it on the first stage. I just stand by. I just don't... What did he gain by having that on stage one?
Yeah.
A couple of watts aero drag and weight saving when your bike... He said in an interview that I saw on the coverage, his bike was 6.9 already.
Do you reckon is there a world where SRAM pays him a little bit extra to do it? Or are we not at that phase?
I think there's I think there's a situation in which they tell him to run it.
Yeah, okay.
Is he in a position to go,
tomorrow, give me an extra
50k euros? I don't think so.
No.
I think they'd probably just If it's a flatter stage, they'd probably say, if you can run it, we'd like you to run it because it looks good for us because Shimano's one by sucks.
Fair enough.
We'll go for that.
We've gone a long time without talking about tyres. I'm going to change that because the next bike is the Cube Lightning Aero C68X. Ooh, mouthful. Cool. I got to say, probably one of the best paint jobs. That blew me away, that sparkly red paint job on the Cube. It's probably getting a little update soon, hopefully. But what sort of stood out to me was the wheels, which were carbon spoked, but also these Hutchinson Blackbird tyres, which I had never seen.
No, and I think it's the first time I've ever seen them in the World Tour. Unless they're running a prototype version, the ones I could find on Bicycle Rolling Resistance, which the ones they had on were the Blackbird, but they had a word before Blackbird, so they might be on some updated version. But the ones that have been tested, the Hutchinson Blackbird TLR 28s, which is the 2024 tyre on Bicycle Rolling Resistance, got an 11.7 watts per tyre versus a Vittoria Corsa Pro Speed, which is 6 watts.
I didn't actually realise the Vittorias were that close.
Yeah, so you're losing 5 watts a tyre, and that's with you all day. You can't. You're going up a hill.
Turn it on
it
or
still
off.
counts. So it's probably not as bad as it looks there because that Vittoria is just so insanely fast. Like a GP5000 STR is 9.1, so there's kind of 2.5 watts per tire. So it's cool to see a little bit more competition in the tire space, and there is more competition. Is the Hutchinson barging up against the GP5000? No, based on this testing. But I like to see it. Would I want to be riding them at Tour Down Under? Probably not. No.
And it was interesting. So then the Van Rysels, which that's probably the first time you've seen that bike.
Oh, I've never seen it in person. Yeah.
So they have the Conti Aero tyre on the front.
Yes.
Which
quite a few teams had them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is this weird thing where you've now created this super aero tyre, but you're losing rolling resistance because it's quite a sort of narrow setup.
Right. I see what you mean. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, because the compound is just as quick as the GP5000, but they've got them mounted on those Swiss side DT Swiss style kind of narrow rims. So, yeah.
Anything else on the Van Rysel from your first? You kind of liked that.
I think if you looked at their bike, and we'll put up some B-roll for those watching at home, but they've made an effort within the realm of staying sponsor correct to try and make it a little faster. They've got the carbon tie chain rings, which whether you like them or not, or you think the shifting's is good, they're trying within what they can do. They're running the aero tire. Okay, you've got pretty narrow carbon rims that are not that light, but you've got the aero tire on the front. That their whole cockpit that Van Rysel have done, I had never seen that in person. It's super from the top down, very thin. Like even at the bolts where it attaches to the steerer tube, super thin. So. I think as a team, isn't that where Dowsett over at Van Rysel?
I don't know the
Decathlon?
answer to that. I'm not sure.
No, he went somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've got someone there who is trying to do, to eke out some gains compared to some other teams where it's just all stock. So I don't know. That's why I thought the Van Rysel team had done a good job.
The carbon chainring thing's certainly a thing in there.
I mean, you're not a fan,
I just
clearly.
Don't get the point. No. Like, if there's one place on the bike you don't want to be losing stiffness, that's the spot for me.
I don't think you'd be losing stiffness with a carbon chainring. I think you'd be losing shifting quality compared to a Dura-Ace chainring. But maybe, if you can put up with that, and your bike's a bit lighter, and you're a climber, I rate it.
Fair enough. Do you want to talk about the Visma Lisa bike setup? I mean, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the same setup. So there's nothing really to say about that. It's the same as the previous years. It's in terms of most of it, it's fine. Can I take this into tyres then?
Yeah.
Because we talked about the Hutchinson Blackbirds just then that Intermarché Wanty are on. So you've got Jumbo are on Vittoria Corsas, 6 watts per tyre in their fastest tyre. Like, that's crazy fast. The next best World Tour tyre is the GP5000 TT tyre, which quite a few teams are still running, 7.6 watts. Pirellis, Alpecin with their Canyons are on the Pirellis. I'm pretty sure on the show 2 years ago, we were probably talking, because remember, Pogacar was on a Pirelli-sponsored team probably 2 years ago.
Yep.
And he hated them. He was vocal. He didn't like them. And then Trek were on them, and you were feeling bad for those teams. But this new Pirelli P0 race, which now Canyon are on, Trek are on, it's actually good. Like, I'd say it's rivaling a GP5000. So if you look at the numbers, rolling resistance is one thing. It's within 0.4 of a watt, so tick there. But bicycle rolling resistance test a bunch of other aspects, which it was probably lacking in before. So wet grip test, it beats the GP5000. The puncture protection beats the GP5000. And not surprising, because it's 0.3 of a mil thicker, so it's actually a thicker tyre. But even though it's thicker, the rolling resistance is pretty close. So I think if you're on a Pirelli-sponsored team in 2025, you're probably pretty happy.
Fake news. So I've ridden those Pirellis. No.
You've ridden
chance.
the new ones, 2024.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. With the yellow decals on them, absolutely. Fine. Yep. They're good. They're great. They're not Contis. I'm sorry. They're just not Contis. Okay. And yes, no, it's not subjective. It's more than subjective. The Conti still gives you that float feeling. It's something about when they're at speed. They don't have to be on. You don't even have to be on rough road surfaces at the time. It is still the only tyre that does that. I haven't ridden Vittoria's. Sorry. And the Pirellis just did not do that. And it did impact my speed, and I would argue impacted my performance. I don't think they're there. Now, I will say that Alpecin are one of the only 2 teams running 30 mil tyres, which did surprise me. I thought more teams would be doing it. So it was only EF and Alpecin running them. So Trek were running the 30 mil Pirelli, potentially as an argument to say they might be giving me that float feeling that the Contis do, but I mean, you just can't argue with the numbers. You can argue with it. I mean, it's a steel drum. It's a steel drum.
Yeah, but you're measuring the rolling resistance. I think what you're feeling is the fact that the casing's just thicker. So that's at the tread. It is thicker, and the Vittoria Corsa is about half as thick as either the GP5000 or the new Pirelli. So that feeling, that suppleness. You would probably, if you put a Vittoria Corsa on, you would lose your mind at this rate. Yeah. But the numbers, I think
where the grip does not bother me in any way, shape, or form. It's not going to be an issue.
The Specialized Turbo Cotton, bicycle rolling resistance only have the 2016 version, and they only have it in a 24 width, and it was 2 watts slower than the GP5000s. I don't think they've tested They do the Specialized, the Red Bull team will be on a 26 or a 29, and there's no testing data for those, but they're running tubes. Why? So that would, in terms of tyres, suppleness, I've ridden those Turbo Cottons before. They're as the same thickness as the GP5000, but running them with a tube, tubeless, you get a puncture and the sealant will fix it. And you'll have more grip because you're on a slightly lower pressure. But I can't believe they're still running tubes.
Well, I think we'll get to the tubeless thing a bit later. Yeah. All right. So I want to revisit that.
But that's tyres.
Yeah.
I think that's about, over the years I've been following it, this is probably the most competitive in the tyre.
Oh, I see your point.
Tyre what? It used to be Vittoria and Continental. Then it was just Continental. And now it's Vittoria, Continental, and I would say Pirelli.
Yeah, I'll give you that. This was interesting. So Ben Swift, Ineos rider, Dogma, running Princeton Carbon Works 35 mil wheels with a 21 mil rim internal for a flat essentially sprint stage that Welsford won, that he was up in the sprint in. He's like in the top 5. And you've got a 35 mil deep wheel on. And it's the weirdest thing of that is it's like, oh, I'm gonna go against all my sponsors to do what? To run a climbing wheel? Like, that just seemed bizarre to me. So I don't know quite what was going on there. But yeah, I just felt like I had to mention that.
It was really odd seeing all the team bikes and there's just one bloke on a random set of wheels. It's quite strange. Although Ineos have worked with Princeton, they run them in the TT setups. So cool, they've given him that freedom. But yeah, I agree. Strange, not the choice I'd be making if I could run something like that.
So that's pretty much, is that the good, I'd say? Pretty much the good as we've gone through it.
There was a lot of bad in there.
There was a bit of bad, that's true.
Oh, but the X-Lab.
We didn't mention the X-Lab.
The China bike.
I think the best thing about the X-Lab is that there's not much to say about it. Really? I think that's fair, isn't it? It looks fine. It looks fast. It looks like it'll do a good job.
The spec's pretty good. Vision wheels.
Well.
Look at those FSA cranks so they don't have to run a Shimano power meter. So they have the Power 2 Max or the FSA Power Box.
Yep.
Whatever one they want to run. It's cool. Yeah. But that's a pass, right? There's nothing in that setup that's raising a red flag. I think that's good. That's what you'd want if you were running this brand that you've never seen before.
Yeah. Though we did spot some interesting one. Okay, so the Lapierre. Do you want to just? I mean.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this stood out as easily the worst setup of the World Tour in 2025. So it's run by. It's not DSM. It's Picnic Postinel.
Oh, sorry.
Team.
Apologies. Yes.
Coming off Scott foils for the boys, and then now on Lapierre's. Keep in mind, this just got released. It's a 2025 bike. They did the one bike to do it all. They took that aero bike and the Zelius, and they mashed them together, and they've come up with the Zelius DRS, running it with Ursus wheels.
Good set of Ursus.
Shimano group set, but with a sponsor-correct Shimano power meter. So you've come off a Scott foil. You get given this brand new. This is the best they could do. Just got released. Tour Magazine already tested it. One bike to do it all, 217 watts.
What it?
It's barely out of climbing bike category. Keep in mind, like an SL8's 208. As Lab 71, Cannondale's Super 6 is a similar 209, maybe 210. So to be at 217 in Tour Magazine's testing on a just released bike, okay, they'll get the weight down to 7, probably 6.9, but so will all the other do-it-all bikes that are faster. And then the wheels, Ursus wheels. Now, all the Ursus wheels that are currently released are terrible. They're on a...
Yeah.
If you actually go look in the team, they have this thing called Enigma, Ursus Enigma, which is their new... We're collaborating with the team. We're doing a prototype wheel set. So we don't know what those wheels are. Looking through... I say the wheels are terrible. I'm not... Go and look through the website. There's nothing compelling here. The 1,600 gram or heavier wheel sets in a 47 depth. There was 28s on their team bikes, and they were just visually looked like they were kind of blowing out on the rim. So whatever wheels they have at the Tour Down Under, if that's this Enigma, I'm not shrouded with curiosity because they looked really generic.
I've got some sort of B-roll that I'll be able to play over this of me videoing that, and you're dead right. Like if you look at the wheels, the 28s are blowing out quite wide on those rims, so there's no way we're talking about a very wide wheel. And also they're full V-shaped. They're just a full old school V-shaped rim. So there's no shaping happening on that. Yeah. So
and coming from the foil, which is just well regarded as a really, really good bike, I think you'd be really disappointed. And it sounds harsh, like just what I've just said sounds harsh, but you've the Lapierre, Ursus, you've given them buckets of cash so they can ride your gear, so you can put yourself in the top showcase in the world. And if your stuff doesn't compete, I think you deserve to be called out for it. Otherwise, you just pay your money and they ride it and everyone thinks it's awesome. I don't think it's... I think the product should come first. If you've got a World Tour quality product, then let's go, let's get it out there. I don't think this is World Tour quality. I think it's quite disappointing, the whole package.
Yeah, hard to argue with it.
Yeah.
Basically. You just look at, I mean, obviously you are the doctor here. You can see all things aerodynamic. But I don't know why we...
Well, I don't need to see it. Tour magazine tested.
Yeah, well, that's true.
17 watts.
But what is this?
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. So they've got... They've done that for ages. So that's an interesting one, right? That's a design... That's their classic Lapierre thing where they disconnect the seat stays from the seat tube and they run past it. Mm-hmm. It gets a thumbs up from me. I like bikes that look different. It just needs to be... Even if it's not a big performance gain... Probably like that Trek ISO speed thing. At least don't be slower. And I feel like based on the testing that the bike's gotten done, I think it's slower. Like that's just catching wind. I would have given them pats on the back for doing something that looks different, but when it doesn't perform well, it's really hard to justify it.
Yep. 2025 then. So you've just signed a World Tour contract, but you get to sign with any team you want.
Ooh.
All right. So you get the package of any of these teams. Is there any... Where are you riding in 2025?
I'm going to give you honourable mention to the Van Rysel. It's just that they do have a Shimano power meter and those wheels are quite narrow. So the rest of the setup was getting close. I was kind of interested. I answered this if you were doing the Tour Down Under.
Oh,
Tour Down Under is a pretty hilly race. The Red Bull SL8, if it was running 2x, but there's no way I'm running clinches. Mm-hmm. So that one was a no. Unfortunately, none of the teams from what I would want, if I was just a cashed up privateer, I wouldn't pick any of them. There's no team that I think does it all perfectly. Unfortunately, just because out of spite for you, I probably would pick the S5 with the reserves. But they're on Vittorias, and even though they're super fast, their puncture protection's not there. I would prefer, if you could give me the Yombo setup with GP5000s, probably that one. And I've seen your pick here. I'll let you run because I actually think that was probably another good
I mean,
pick too.
you almost buried the lead there in the sense that if you're a master's privateer, right? I don't think, so you think about all this stuff. You're putting the bits together. I walk down those pits and I'm like, oh, I'd change that. Oh, I'd change that. Oh, I'd change that. Just there's always little bits and pieces. So that's kind of my overall takeaway of doing that. I know that's the World Tour, whatever. That's the way it's going to be. But just from our chat perspective, I find that interesting that there's always one little bit that's just missing for me. But I think the one that got the closest is the Cannondale Lab 71. I reckon that's really grown on me. The Vision 60 SL wheels, the more I kind of look at them, I think they're ticking a lot of the boxes that I want ticked from a wheel set. And I know they do appear on quite a few bikes, but that bike particularly looks like it's got that sort of snappiness that I want from... If I'm ever going to go the one bike to do it all thing, that for me would be a really good selection. Throw in the additional stuff. The kit's pretty nice. Good vibe team. Oak lattes. Sort of get around that, you know. That would be where I would end up.
That's
definitely a power meter that works as well.
Because they
it's
are
still
also
a mystery power meter for me though, because that power to max is like that's been around forever.
Yeah,
ever. I don't even know. Are they still bought into this? Like, is there a distributor? Maybe FS. But anyway, that's another question.
They are. In Australia, there is a distributor for them. Yeah.
Okay. But it's.
But they run that on the FSA, the carbon cranks, so you don't have to run the Shimano power meter.
Yep.
I think they got a pretty compelling setup. They were one of the teams on 30mm tyres, up from 28s. Yep.
Helmet, that would be. So that Cristal helmet would be great for Tour Down Under.
What helmet is it?
The 3D winged one. Was it Cristal?
That massive, the one that you have. Oh,
be good here.
Oh, because it's so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's the Octal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But at other races, when it's not this hot. So what did you choose? You ended up just choosing the...
I can't really
Yeah.
I can't pick. I picked the Jumbo setup. Fine, reluctantly.
What else? What else did you see?
There's the kit's come a long way. Like you'll see the riders come up and down. They're all in skin suits. Basically, everyone's got that tripped aero fabric on the sleeves. Everyone's in cooling vests. Everyone's in aero socks. It's come a long way.
Yeah.
You didn't see that even 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. So as much as, you look at the picnic post-NL team with the Lapierres and you go, probably wouldn't run that. Their kit looks awesome.
Yeah.
So the actual, the skin suits and all of that, I think they've done quite well. I also said in a prior show, because it's so hot at Tour Down Under, dealing with heat as you ride, as probably a lot of people here out riding have kind of felt, is probably the biggest thing you need to do. Well, not the biggest thing you need to eat and drink, but besides that, it's just dealing with heat. And I've said I'm going to keep an eye out for things teams are doing as a way to do that. And I noticed today the Intermarché Wanty team have made a kit change colour-wise. For those that don't know, colour impacts how much light is given off and therefore how much heat the fabric and your skin absorbs. So obviously darker colours, reds, even blues don't do that well. Oranges, whites, yellows do really well. And so I'm always keeping an eye on who's changing when they update their kit design to have more white. White is gold. And today in the break, the Intermarché Wanty rider, they used to have blue, yellow, and white all mixed over the back. And now he's got on their skin suits, huge white all the way from the back of the shoulders down to the chamois is all one massive white panel. And then they've just put a few logos on it. It actually looks weird. It kind of looks like they've got like a bath towel down the back, and the panel is disjointed from the leg panel. Whether that was strategically done with consideration for all the hot races they're going to do, I'm giving big thumbs up if that was. If this was just accidental and that's just the design I went with, well, lucky the riders because they're not going to get as hot. And then I've got a screenshot here which you can put in, but comparing this to the little Trek team in the break, Trek riders got dark blue all over and like a tiny little strip of yellow from the little logo. He's getting a lot warmer. That sun's just beating down on his back. So that's kind of a heat management thing I noticed.
Is there a world where white bibs become a performance advantage, Jesse?
Yes. We're in
that's
that
concerning?
world. Yes. There's just so many other downsides that no one has quite...
I was quite comfortable in them at the cafe this morning.
I wasn't seeing it all. No, well, yeah.
So hang on, but just quickly to clarify, so are you saying that they made a specific kit change for this season or for today?
That's their kit. That's for the year, right?
Okay.
And I'm not saying they did it specifically. I'm just saying if they did, hats off, because that stuff makes a serious difference.
Because I was just because you can't just go changing kits every day.
No.
It's
their
UCI get all whingy about that.
Yep. Yes, they do. They definitely.
Yes, very good. No, good spot. And even just walking around the pits, I know it's a pretty seen thing, but like pretty much every rider in a ice vest.
Yes. Yep.
It's certainly come a long way because those pits are hot.
It's
like
awful.
It's an absolute sweat box just sitting there. We were just thinking as these guys were rolling out, like if you were sitting there, it was 40 degrees on the start line and you've been sitting in it for an hour waiting for the start and you're thinking you've come from Belgium and you're like, shit, I don't think I've done the heat prep.
No.
My heart rate's going to be 210 in about 4 minutes.
Yep.
All right, I think, what do you reckon? That's Tour
That's about my thoughts for TDU bike spotting. Yes.
I think we just, let's talk about this new release then.
More gear chat, yeah.
One more bit of gear chat.
Yeah, so this bike's not here in the men's race. It was here with the Uno X women's team and the women's TDU. The new Ridley aero bike that got released. Can we chat through it?
Yep.
Well, let's just quickly, for those that haven't seen it, run through what are we looking at. Huge head tube, huge forks. It looks like that Dare that got released. Modern geometry. So they've got their seat tube angle is very steep, almost like a time trial bike, which is, I'd call that modern geometry because that's
we'll come back to that.
Well, you mentioned with the with the Bianchis that everyone's got their saddle slammed all the way far forward. And so I think as a World Tour bike, that makes sense. 34 millimeter tire clearance.
That's about the threshold at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's the new, like it used to be 30 mil tire clearance. Then it was 32 over the last 2 years, and now it's 34. If you're running a new Ridley aero bike, you're probably not putting 34s on it yet, but it's nice to have it.
I mean, it's an out and out aero bike. There's no two ways about it. They're back now trying to sell the package.
Yep,
I've noticed. So we're building it in with their in-house wheels and the bar and stem. There's no testing on this yet, though.
The old Ridley Noah Fast disc. This is a problem I have. Their old full on that looked pretty quick. That was only 213 watts. Tour Magazine tested, and that's not even as quick as the old SL7. And so, without seeing testing of this yet, I'm not confident in Ridley's ability to make a Canyon Aero level bike from an aerodynamic point of view. Now, happy for it to get tested, and it's 202 watts, and it's all happy days. I just haven't seen that from Ridley. I don't know how big their little R&D department is, or big R&D department is. So I don't really have too much faith in it from that point of view, just from a historical record.
Can I then talk about the Road CC video, or have we got any more specs that we just want to cover before we go on to that?
I don't have too much else to cover on it, other than so they did a whole article about their development process, and in one of the photos, which they 3D printed, it had a Velo or a Conago 1S level sort of stem that went up as a riser from the head tube, and that made sense because the stack height looks quite low and it's all tucked in. Then the bike got released, and then if you look at the pros running it, they've all got normal stems, and the stem they've got, their proprietary one that's on the website, it only goes up a few degrees. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with this stack height. It looks like they designed it with a low stack height so to use a riser stem, but it's not coming with a riser stem.
So like the Elves Falaf.
Basically like the Elves, but if it came with a stem that bumped you up 3 or 4 centimeters, you're all happy.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that was just one thing I flagged.
Okay, but like again, I've nailed this flag before, but I'm keen to see new aero bikes being launched, good additional things in that space. So I'm kind of happy about that.
Yep.
Road CC do a video. I don't know if anyone here has seen that particular video. You had a quick look, I know.
Yeah.
It was actually, what was the title of it? Can you bring it up for me? It was something along the lines of like why I don't want this to be the future of bikes. And we had sort of 5 reasons. Was that right?
Yeah, it was 5 reasons why we hope this isn't the future of road race bikes. And it's them just talking about the new Ridley.
Yes. So this is the same Road CC that a couple of weeks ago were wetting themselves about the Y1 RS, and that it was so good that companies were now developing bikes for their pro riders and putting pros first, and they're going faster, and R&D, Ray. Fantastic. Okay, good. So, but now we don't like this bike, and we don't like this bike because the seat tube angle is too steep. So basically this bit's too steep.
Sorry. Say that again.
Sorry.
That won't be in the microphone. The seat tube is coming, you bring right forward over the bottom bracket. Yeah. Sorry, that was the very first point they made in their video.
Okay. So, and as I mentioned with the Bianchi Ultra, that's what really everyone is doing. They're shoving themselves further over the bottom bracket and maxing out their saddles. And in my own riding experience, like on the TCR at the moment, I am maxed out with my saddle over the bottom bracket and going kind of longer at the front end. So the reality is what Ridley have done is actually seen that trend and gone, right, well, this is what our pros are doing. We'll build a bike for the geometry for that. So I would like to see that as part of bikes going forward in 2025.
Unfortunately, 100% agree. So I called it modern geometry. That's generally where pro riders are wanting to go. Now, they made a point in that first point of the video. The guy in the Road CC video was saying The problem with it is that it won't handle as well because you'll be too far forward. Even though pros want to come far forward and it's accommodating to them. And this will be another kind of point that's coming on. It's this competition between consumer and pro. All I'm saying is they're updating the geometry for what pros want, and it's a bike to be raced by Uno X who are pros. And so saying the seat tube angle is too steep as a negative makes no sense.
So this is where the argument gets muddy. All right. So the second point that they made was that specialist bikes aren't good for the general public. Basically, do-it-all bikes give you everything that you need. Now, there's a touchy subject in a specialized store, just Coyle. But what do you think? Are specialist bikes good for the general public?
No. So on one hand, I agreed with their point, but it just doesn't make sense because that Ridley is designed for a World Tour team.
No, but that's true. But you agree that they're not good for the general public.
Oh, I think it's quite a small percentage of people, if they ask, that I'd recommend they get the new Ridley Noah super hyper aero bike. Yeah, 100%.
I'm torn. So what are the downsides for the general public? We did that Rafa ride yesterday. Mm-hmm. We did bits of it and we turned around, but we got the gist of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, is someone on a Ridley Noah fast hating life because they're in an aggressive riding position, and more so than someone on a do-it-all Lapierre? Maybe not Lapierre is not a great example, but I feel like we're potentially overblowing that fact or overblowing that factor for the sake of the argument.
Well, my answer would be, in a world of not having choice, which for most brands we're getting less choice, do-it-all bikes are better. But for what I think it should be, now I'm not 100% across the Ridley's entire spectrum of other bikes that if you're going to a Ridley store, what you have choice from. I'm kind of living in so that's my pick. Obviously, I kind of, in like a perfect world scenario, you should be able to pick a do-it-all and the aero. And so that's why I'm always giving that answer of do-it-all bikes are better, but I should still be able to buy the specialist bike, even if it doesn't suit me, and the salesperson should probably tell me it's a bad idea.
I agree. In a perfect world, you have the aero bike, the do-it-all, and the climbing bike, but most companies, that's not going to make financial sense to do that.
For example, the Rafa ride, there was 2 guys on the front for the first hour. Why do you need a Ridley Noah Fast 3.0 in the wheels?
Looks good. Well, I'll get to that because
even if you can get into a decent position, it's heavier. It's very likely to be less comfortable. Maybe they've done some miracle layup. I highly doubt it. And so you're going, well, what's the bit that it's excelling at? You don't need, and that's why I'd say you got to do it.
Yeah. I probably can't disagree with that. I mean, when you're sitting in the wheels on a bunch ride like that, you're probably sitting up high anyway, and that's really that bike's not designed to be like that.
But just back to the Road CC video, it's a specialist bike, and your negative is saying it's not a good bike for the general public. Yeah, it's a specialist bike. To me, that makes no sense.
Yep. Stack height is too low. So I disagree with this. And
what?
Yeah.
You're Mr. Come Up High and...
But, okay, and I've got no problem coming up high. But now that we're in the land of integration, I will point to these bikes. These bikes all have spacers under them. And they look cool. I got no issue with that. So the days of the sloppy spacer situation have gone now because you've cleaned up the cables. You can throw 15 centimeters of spacers under there, no problems. And so you can get away with it from an aesthetic perspective.
I actually agreed with their point because there's a lot of people that don't need 15 mil of spacers. They need 35, 45. Have you seen a bike with 55 mil of spacers? It's not pretty. And most of them potentially don't even have enough fork length to do it. So if you could just come up a bit higher, even pros are doing it. Most of the pros have spaces. This is what it doesn't make sense. If 7 out of 8 pros all have at least 1.5 centimeters of spaces, just make the stack height higher, and that one person can just get a negative stem, and then everyone else can. That'll just be better across the board.
I don't know. My argument is the solution isn't as bad as it used to be.
Okay.
That's all. And plus, most of the times, if you're buying an integrated bar and stem, they're going to probably spec it with a pretty short stem anyway. It looks wrong.
To be fair, how many times have we... I'm pretty sure we said it about that bike when it first turned up at Nationals last year. We went, it's a bit ugly.
Yeah.
And then we totally turned around and I picked it as Bike of the Year. So, look, I don't really care what it looks like if it tests fast.
Agreed with it kind of does look wrong.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah. It is not sure how many people here have seen it, but it is very front heavy.
Yeah.
Like, it is very front heavy. So, yeah, I probably can't argue with that. And then... I mean, have you got a take on that, or are you happy with that?
I mean, I just... Yeah.
And it's too expensive. The professional bike is too preferred.
Well, they were comparing it to the Specialized, weren't they? It's a couple $100 more than I think it was the S-Works.
Yeah.
SLA, for Ridley.
I don't know. Ridley's a funny brand. Like, there's a real cult following to them. I remember meeting a lot of guys who would they fully want to spec out that Lotto Soudal Ridley bike, the Tim Wellens spec. Like, it's a real thing. So they do have a real diehard following. Whether it's willing to keep up with that sort of money is another question. But I don't get that because I don't get the Ridley sort of vibe, I suppose.
I mean, yeah. Is it? It's yeah. I don't. What do you even say to that? I mean, is it? Probably.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Is a $2,500 integrated bar and stand from Envy too expensive? Probably.
Yeah,
but
I mean, yeah.
At this point,
so they're a big publication. It's a big YouTube channel. So if they were going to come in and say it's too expensive, how much should it be? If they could kind of go, well, it should be here because. They could save $1,000 off for this reason, maybe explain it. I could probably get around it, but just say, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
What if it's the fastest bike? What if it's the fastest? What if it beats an aero and an S5? Cool. It's probably not too expensive.
Yeah. All right. I reckon that's probably enough gear chat for 3 years for us.
Yeah.
I reckon we just maybe go for a little bit of a quick fire round and then potentially we get onto some prize giveaways.
Yep.
What do you reckon?
Yep.
Should we... Is it rude not to talk about Nationals? Should we mention it?
It was it's been a little while, but it's still relevant.
Asking.
Everyone is still talking about Australian road nationals for those that are overseas. It's pretty controversial, the finish. I think we can have I've got an opinion on it. Now, for those that still aren't aware, the Jayco team had Durbridge up the road all day, hanging in there, gets the 2 laps to go. He's really starting to fade. Meanwhile, the Jay Vine, Jai Hindley, all the other names are in there working to try and pull him back. And then I think it's 2 laps to go. Platt just somehow, I don't know how he did it because the cameras didn't manage to get it, gets a gap. Cameras go back to him and he's off. And once he gets 10 metres, he's gone. Bridges across to Durbridge. By that stage, they've got sort of 1 lap to go. Durbridge gets in the wheel. Platt drags him around. At that stage, once Platt's gone, it's just a done deal. And so it's cool. There's 2 of them. Platt's, Durbo's the domestique. Platt's going to get the historical 4-time win of the national champs in a row. So we think, cool, he'll drag him around. He'll give Durbo the pat on the butt and he'll just send it up the last climb and stick his hands in the air. Does he do that? No. He slows down up the final drag, lets Durbo stay in the draft, and then sits up and waves him off. And Durbo goes through and wins a second national championships. I think it was 13 years later. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, okay, my take on this is if Durbo hadn't won one, And this was almost like this iconic moment for him at home to finally win a Nationals. I would have more than happily gone along with that. I don't know whether it's just the racer or what, but the cutthroatness of road cycling to me still wins. And for me, Plapp just should have whacked it and won solo and won 4. And for like four in a row, like 2 of them on a team that were when he was basically solo. That just to me would have been such a story. And I'm not going to hold a grudge against anyone about it, but that was just my take on it.
Well, yeah, when Plapp got to him, I was like, there is a 2% chance Plapp lets Durbo get it.
Yeah.
He's got that dog in him. I was like, for sure he's going to get the 4P. Like, Plapp's a nice guy, but he's
a racer.
Yeah. And so my jaw was on the floor when he let him have it. I couldn't believe it. And for the team as well, it's more, from a monetary point of view, it's more valuable for Plapp to have it. It's better for Giant for Plapp to have it. Obviously, for the vibes and for the boys, cool, Durbo can get it. But from a real cutthroat business perspective, it's just more valuable for Plapp to get it. And so that's why I was surprised that firstly, that Plapp let him have it. Amazing. Kudos. And that the team seemed like they would probably said, Plapp, well, up to you, whatever you want to do.
There'd be a financial bonus as well. Like if you win Nationals, we know that. There is a monetary bonus.
Yep.
I wonder whether that gets shared. I'd imagine it probably would. Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably as well for Plapp, probably also a good sign of whatever the hell he's cooking for this year, because to give up that...
Agreed.
With your eye on something else later in the season, he must know something we don't. Because not to be like rude, but like Plapp doesn't have that many big results. He's a big name, but if you actually go through his results on Pro Cycling Stats, doesn't have that many massive ones.
Yep.
So he must really have some confidence going into the season to give that a 4-peat up. But one of the other things that people questioned was, is that okay to do? Is that fair game that you give it up?
Oh, that it's like almost like collusion and
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is.
You think it's all good, or you?
Well, no, I don't agree with I actually don't agree with what happened, but I don't think it's from the perspective of it being sinister, or they should be disqualified or anything like that. No, right? I got no issue with that. That's our sport. It always has been, always will be.
Okay.
Yeah. You? DQs? Both?
No. No, I'm totally fine. Yeah. I don't. I think I think it's actually quite good. Like if it means that much to you to win Nationals, if Javine wants to win Nationals, well, go to Jayco, probably take a pay cut, and you can win Nationals. Like that's just the game. And so I think it's just I really don't have a problem with it at all. It's just they're the strongest team. They have the most riders.
Yeah.
They support Australian cycling by having the most Australian riders, and that's what works to the spoils.
The only other thing I was going to mention before we get on to the prizes is so I don't know whether you find this interesting or not, but I'm doing Rattle Gravel this week, Friday, tomorrow. No, 2 days away. So what's the reality of that? It means I bring 2 bikes.
Yes.
And it's actually still a bit of a shit show to do this. And I'm not sure where we are with these events, trying to link them all in to actually make this happen. Obviously, if you're in Adelaide, cool, happy days, you can wander down and make it that way. But if you're an interstate person and you're, the industry is wanting us to do all these different events, it's not that easy.
Well, that's you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to do a Shane Miller. We saw his video.
I watched that video last night. So what Shane did, now he drove here, so that's cheating, but he's done the 2-wheel set solution. So basically, he's got the Aspero and he's got the 2 different wheels, one with the gravel tires, one with the road tires, same gearing on both. And he's doing his road riding with his wife this week around the hills, blah blah blah. And then he throws the gravel wheels on later. Look, yes, that's something you could do. I still think the actual perfect solution is the 2-tire solution.
Well, yeah.
So that is so what have I got? I've got the reserve gravel wheels on there. So I run a slick a really good slick. I mean, maybe those Pirelli 40s get upgraded to a nice race tire, and I could have done the chop this morning on those, and then come Thursday, I put the gravel tires on. I've got sealant all over the hotel room. It's blowing up everywhere.
Oh, but if you're just doing road riding, why would you run 40s? You could just run your standard road tires.
True, but it's a super wide wheel.
Oh, so okay,
So
right, yeah.
like it'd look stupid. It probably wouldn't even fit.
Yeah, okay. And it's hookless too, so you'd have to.
No, not the reserves.
Oh, sorry, you got the reserves.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had those zip wheels.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that would be. I think that's the ultimate solution. But then, you're setting up
a hotel tubeless setup. Yeah.
But yeah, what I did is Vaughan at Amazing Bike Travel brought my bike down. So he actually drove from Sydney down here with my road bike, and I flew down with the gravel bike, which is a solution, but it's certainly not going to be for everyone. But yeah, I don't know. I just sort of wanted to mention that because it's like these events are all going to start lining up more and more, and we're going to be pushed to the one bike to try and do it all. But I still think if you're doing it, you're still too heavily gravel focused bringing the gravel bike. I just would have struggled this morning.
I do think it's interesting. Imagine 5 years ago telling someone that you're going to the Tour Down Under and you're going to do a week of road riding and a gravel race and you're bringing one bike. They go, what are you talking about? How? I still do think the gearing is the issue because chain ring size, I feel like it would be quite difficult to just to pick one chain ring size to do a gravel race with a 15% gradient at the start and ride around Adelaide for a week on the road.
Yeah.
You'd have to really do your research on that one.
We're not quite there. So yeah, we thought we might try and do some Q&As. We've got a microphone here, which maybe Ozzy might run over to you with. But yeah, we might try and do 5 or 6 questions if possible. Oh, that's a totally fair question. So it's basically on the back of what we were just talking about bringing, coming to, sorry, what was your name? Alec, doing Rattle Gravel, but he's doing road riding all week. And so it sounds like Alex done the bring the road wheels, bring the gravel wheels, and yes.
So where's the line? Where do you catch up?
So
we might have the same point, but I'll go with it because we did one of the group rides here in Adelaide that runs out to the port, super fast. There was a guy from Alpine Cycling Club. I think it was the father of Julian, who won the under-23 Road Nationals. He was in a Sparrow. So there you go. If you're really strong, it's probably not a limiter. But I think for that sort of thing, I mean, there were sections where we were just sitting on 55. I think kilometres an hour. You start to reach a limit of gearing. I think
definitely argue that was the cutoff. His gearing, he was running a full road Ultegra gearing on it, so he could get away with it. From my own perspective, I would have probably got away with it with the 46 front tooth and the 10 rear. But look, to be honest,
not that many people. Who's doing that?
Yeah,
are you going out to swap off with?
But I want to do that. So me, basically, I mean, so yeah, that's still the threshold. But if you're doing the map ride or the Rafa rides, 100% no issues.
From the people that we've seen I think almost all of them could probably do it. I think, back to what I was saying, Paul, I think most people could do it with that one setup, but you'd really have to think it through. And you'd have to do, like in Shane Miller in his videos, he's in his SRAM app analysing time in gears from all his rides to figure out what was appropriate. Like he's done work to it.
Is riding your gravel bike with the road tyres, the road wheels, as much fun as riding your road bike? Yeah. Because when we were coming back through Tea Gardens, I went to go over Norton Summit.
Oh, like the basket ranges.
And that's so sick. Like it's flowing through there. You're just absolutely like rolling through there. That's so much fun on my road bike. Maybe it would be on the gravel. I don't know. But
yeah. So what happened was I'm on a loaner bike down here at Focus, and it's got the head unit mount for a Garmin. I use a Wahoo, So it's actually the same mount. It's just that it's on a different angle. And so I've got my Wahoo element set up sideways. But there was so many people came up and were like, oh, there should be a button that can just flip the screen around. I'm like, yeah, 100%. And there was a head unit that could do that. The old Stages Dash could run it portrait or landscape mode.
Yep.
I mean, not the most successful product in other regards, but in that sense, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I think I'd use it as well if you could run it landscape mode. It makes sense.
There was a nice look to the landscape option. I didn't mind that.
Yeah, it was good.
But no aero gains that we know of, not yet.
We've
kind of said our piece on that, haven't we? I mean, look, like from my perspective, it's a disappointing use of resources. Is kind of the way I'll look at it. I'm absolutely stoked that Jerry is wanting to put money into domestic racing. The fact that the barriers to entry remain high, if not higher than ever, for anyone trying to run a team is not sustainable. And to try and tell me that you're going to make this sustainable by making it interest corporates and you're going to have all these broadcasts that's going to engage people is just not true. The numbers don't add up. And so what I would have loved to see is them back grassroots racing and make the barriers to entry as low as possible. Get rid of the teams. If people want to put money into the sport, put money into the sport to help juniors get into it and race. And they can just, if Jesse's coaching a 17-year-old kid now, it would have been great for him to just say, look, there's a race down in Adelaide, go down, do it. There's 3 days racing. Now he's got to find a team. That's assuming a teams exist. The barriers to entry for a team is impossible. I don't take pleasure in hearing that. Obviously, I had my own experiences running a team, which was a disaster financially for me. I don't want to see that happen to anyone else. And I don't see why it won't happen to anyone else.
Yeah, I think we don't really speak about it. Firstly, a lot of our audience is in the US, and they probably don't care about the Pro Velo League, so that's probably one reason why we don't talk about it a lot. Or also, it looks really cool and flashy now because there's a guy Ryan's pumping money into it. Let's see what it looks like in 4 years. My prediction, the reason why I'm not that excited for it is I think we'll be back at square one where we were last year in 4 years' time when the money dries up, because I don't think it ever will be, or at least in the near future, is going to be this commercially viable term. I strongly believe it's not going to be, and we'll be back at square one having burnt through a couple of $1 million in probably 4 years. So that's my...
And I don't take pleasure in criticising it because there's a lot of really awesome people involved in it. In putting money into it now, and so I'm not going to just throw stones for the sake of it, but I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to lie about it. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the prizes if you win the things under 23 category.
Just reiterate the question.
So yeah, the question was sort of in terms of going pro. Can you do it domestically, or do you end up having to needed to go to Europe anyway? And so my answer would be the winner of the under 23 categories get a pro contract. Okay, so there's stagiaire or spot, depending if you're in the men's or the women's, for one person. For everyone else, even if you do the whole Pro Velo League, you're not getting a contract. You have to go to Europe anyway, and the teams already do go to Europe. So it's not... Okay, it's getting... Best case is giving riders race experience, but the teams are having to go over to Europe anyway, and it's never been easier in the history of the world to go to Europe with a team. It's very accessible. And so most of the teams, if they want to send riders pro, will be doing that anyway. And that's where the results that actually are going to get noticed are going to come from.
The short answer from me is sadly, no. A result in Australia means nothing. And this comes back to me wanting the barriers to entry for racing to be lowered, because what is good about racing in Australia is the actual experience of it and getting better at racing. And we're good at that. The talent's crazy. So you put 50 or 60 guys together, it's a fucking hard race. And so that experience is good, but the result doesn't mean anything. And so it's then that next step of actually going to Europe, which is the thing.
And if you're Elliot Schultz and he was on a Bridge Lane team, they're already they're already going to Europe, so they already have access to races that are going to get meaningful results. The gaping hole in the calendar is how do you get onto that team? Like, how do you go from I'm a 19-year-old club B grader, then I'm a club A grader. Oh, and now I got to get onto this Conti team and go to Europe, which is great. That already exists. That's where I feel like the biggest gap is that needs to be fixed. And this doesn't really fix that. It's kind of pitching itself as to be on a similar level to Europe, but not actually providing the pathway.
I would argue that Chris probably the best form he's had in a long time, or you could say is the main, I guess, biggest change in sort of 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is quite the change in training to where he is now to where he was before.
Okay, so part of it is change, but before we get into what's changed, Chris is also now benefiting from the last 10 years of having done all that work. And so it's easy to look at what changed recently, but actually probably 90% of the reason why you are good is you've been riding so consistently for the last decade, and that's where the benefit comes from. Chris races a lot better now, doesn't get to the finish of a race and tactically, skill-wise, go, oh, well, I'm at the finish, but I don't back my sprint, so I'm not going to compete. There is a skill and a confidence element to it. So that's definitely noticeable. Chris has a big change in mentality, but that change in mentality has come from, obviously, that physically getting stronger, developing. I think, like we've chatted about on the show before, Chris's climbing hasn't gotten any faster because he's put weight on, but power-wise across the board, beating every power PB, especially in that sub 3 minute category, shifting from aerobic to anaerobic is all a lot stronger. And why? Oh, multitude of reasons. Heavier. Part of that is an increase in muscle mass, which improves strength and also aerobic performance. Better rate of recovery from that, probably as well with an increase in weight as well, because Chris was probably quite low in the BMI scale and a body fat percent, just literally recovering better, getting more adaptation for the same or less amount of work. I think there's just quite a few factors that you've changed. Doesn't work for everyone though. There's people out there that kind of want to do the opposite. They want to get a bit leaner. They want to lose a bit of weight. And so, I don't know, it's obviously individual.
It's an interesting question because, it's yes, way more. Like I never used to do that, but that's again, it's definitely a factor.
But it's not just gym.
No,
I hate that.
Yeah,
because if you were doing everything you did before and just went to the gym, you'd probably be worse.
Yeah,
you'd be more overtrained.
100%.
So yes, Chris has started doing strength training, but it's also maybe 5% of the difference.
But it's also the races that I'm doing now. I've designed myself to do them. Like the races that you've seen me do, Vaughan, races that I was never training for before, like short crits, hard, flat. These sort of things were not events that I was trying to get myself in shape for. So the races that you saw me do, I was probably just second fiddle because I didn't have that power profile. And when I, decided, okay, I'm going to do way more local stuff and this is the sort of training I'm going to do for it, that mindset shift happens as well.
If I had to put because all the different factors, if I had to guess what the biggest factor is that changed for Chris, it was the weight and muscle mass gain and the associated hormonal increases from that. That's probably done 70% of the work.
Yeah.
Specificity of training, weight training, and a tactical change is probably the rest of the 30%.
Yeah. When you have 2 kids under 2 and then they're not 2 kids under 2, life gets kind of a bit easier, basically. You're sleeping. Yeah. Maybe we make this the last one?
Yeah.
It's 5:51? Yeah.
So the question was asking about the pigs training plan. I haven't had a chance to look at it. From memory, it's a, correct me if I'm wrong, they do a PDF and it's to pick your level, and I think there's 3 different categories and they run you through it. In short, no, I haven't had a chance to look through it. It's
16-week training program.
Yeah, we're getting close. If you're asking now and you haven't started, I'd be a little worried. It's hard to look. I can say anything that's not specific is going to be a little difficult to make work, and also when you're probably obviously from a physiological point of view, but also the practicalities of following something static when you want to go and ride with a mate for 4 hours on Saturday and that's not what it says, or you're doing
very
something on a
specific.
Thursday morning, it's very specific.
Very specific.
So
It's like there's like SEs in it.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I can't assess it from a training point of view. Is it better than just totally winging it and just doing what we call preparation and doing no training? It is probably better than that. But that my biggest concern off the top of my head would be, how do you actually make that work in your general riding schedule that you like to do? Yeah, it was built by a good coach though. I'm pretty sure if that's the one that's still run by Stephen Lane,
yeah.
he knows what he's doing. I would have to think the sessions and the structure and the periodization of it. He's an experienced coach, so I'm guessing it's probably pretty well done.
I think we wrap it up, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. That was
Thanks
amazing.
for coming, everyone.
Thank you, guys.